We're back. And we're continuing with the reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We'd like to thank our percussionists for that contribution to the last bhajan. And thank you to the live studio audience here at Govardhana Hill. You all look effulgent out there and in here. And thank you anybody who's watching online today. It's such a great pleasure to be joined together in various places listening to Srila Prabhupada's purports, which gives us a way to come directly in contact with him and imbibe his qualities. So we're taking up where we left off at Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 12, Creation of the Kumāras and Others, and their next verse is 34? 35. Okay. The four kinds of paraphernalia for conducting the fire sacrifice became manifest. The performer, the chanter, the offerer, the fire, and the action performed in terms of the supplementary Vedas. Also, the four principles of religiosity, truth, austerity, mercy, and cleanliness. And the duties in the four social orders all became manifest. Purport: eating, sleeping, defending, and mating are the four principles of material bodily demands, which are common to both the animals and the human society. To distinguish human society from the animals, there is the performance of religious activities in terms of the social statuses and orders of life. They are all clearly mentioned in the Vedic literatures and were manifested by Brahmā when the four Vedas were generated from his four mouths. Thus the duties of humankind in terms of the statuses and social orders were established to be observed by the civilized man. Those who traditionally follow these principles are called Aryans, or progressive human beings. 36. Vidura said, O great sage whose only wealth is penance, kindly explain to me how and with whose help Brahmā established the Vedic knowledge which emanated from his mouth. Maitreya said, beginning from the front face of Brahmā, gradually the four Vedas, Rik, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva, became manifest. Thereafter, Vedic hymns, which had not been pronounced before, priestly rituals, the subject matters of the recitation, and transcendental activities were all established one after another. He also created the medical science, military art, musical art, and architectural science, all from the Vedas. They all emanated one after another, beginning from the front face. Purport: the Vedas contain perfect knowledge, which includes all kinds of knowledge necessary for human society, not only on this particular planet, but on other planets as well. It is understood that military art is also necessary knowledge for the upkeep of social order, as is the art of music. All these groups of knowledge are called the Upapurana, or supplements to the Vedas. Spiritual knowledge is the main topic of the Vedas, but to help the human being's spiritual pursuit of knowledge, the other information, as above mentioned, forms necessary branches of the Vedic knowledge. 39. Then he created the fifth Veda, the Puranas, and the histories from all his mouths, since he could see all the past, present, and future. Purport: there are histories of particular countries and nations and of the world, but the Puranas are the histories of the universe, not only in one millennium, but in many kalpas. Brahma has knowledge of these historical facts, and therefore all the Puranas are histories. As originally composed by Brahma, they are part of the Vedas and are called the fifth Veda. All the different varieties of fire sacrifice, Shodashi, Utkta, Purishi, Agnishtoma, Apturyama, Atiratra, Vajapeya, and Gosava, became manifested from the eastern mouth of Brahmā. Education, charity, penance, and truth are said to be the 4 legs of religion. And to learn this, there are 4 orders of life, which different classifications of castes according to vocation. Again, education, charity, penance, and truth are said to be the 4 legs of religion. And to learn this, there are 4 orders of life with different classifications of castes according to vocation. Brahmā created all these in systematic order. I find it interesting that it's mentioned here that the 4 orders of life are meant for education, charity, penance, and truth. The nucleus of the 4 social orders, brahmacharya or student life, grihastha or household family life, vanaprastha or retired life for practicing penance, and sannyas or renounced life for preaching the truth, is the 4 legs of religion. The vocational divisions are the brahmanas or the intelligent class, the kshatriyas or administrative class, the vaishyas or mercantile productive class, and the shudras or general laborer class who have no specific qualifications. All were systematically planned and created by Brahmā for the regular promotion of self-realization. Student life is meant for acquiring the best education. Household family life is meant for gratifying the senses, provided it is performed with a charitable disposition of mind. Retirement from household life is meant for penance, for advancement in spiritual life, and renounced life is meant for preaching the absolute truth to the people in general. The combined actions of all members of society make the whole situation favorable for the upliftment of the mission of human life. The beginning of this social institution is based on education meant for purifying the animal propensities of the human being. The highest purificatory process is knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the purest of the pure. Then the thread ceremony for the twice born was inaugurated, as were the rules to be followed for at least 1 year after acceptance of the Vedas, rules for observing complete abstinence from sex life, vocations in terms of Vedic injunctions, various professional duties in household life, and the method of maintaining a livelihood without anyone's cooperation by picking up rejected grains. During student life, the brahmacharis were given full instructions about the importance of the human form of life. Thus, the basic education was designed to encourage the student in becoming free from family encumbrances. Only students unable to accept such a vow in life were allowed to go home and marry a suitable wife. Otherwise, the student would remain a permanent brahmachari, observing complete abstinence from sex life for his whole life. It all depended on the quality of the student's training. We had the opportunity to meet an avowed brahmachari in the personality of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad, Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Goswami Maharaj. Such a great soul is called a Naishtika brahmachari. The 4 divisions of retired life are the Vaikhanasas, Valakilyas, Audumbaras, and Penapas. The 4 divisions of the renounced order of life are the Kudichakas, Bhavodas, Hamsas, and Nishkriyas. All these were manifested from Brahmā. The Varnashram Dharma, or the institution of the 4 divisions and orders of social and spiritual life, is not a new invention of the modern age, as proposed by the less intelligent. It is an institution established by Brahmā for the beginning of the creation. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chaturvarnyam Maya Shrishtam. The science of logical argument, the Vedic goals of life, and also law and order, moral codes, and the celebrated hymns, Bhu, Bhuva, and Swa, all became manifested from the mouths of Brahma, and the Pranava Omkar was manifested from his heart. Thereafter, the art of literary expression, Ushnik, was generated from the hairs on the body of the Almighty Prajapati. The principal Vedic hymn, Gayatri, was generated from the skin, Trishtup, from the flesh, Anushtup, from the veins, and Jagati, from the bones of the Lord of the living entities. The art of writing verse, Pankti, became manifested from the bone marrow, and that of Rihati, another type of verse, was generated from the life breath of the Lord of the living entities. Brahma's soul was manifested as the touch alphabets, his body as the vowels, his senses as the sibilant alphabets, his strength as the intermediate alphabets, and his sensual activities as the 7 notes of music. Sa-re-ga-ma-pa-na-ni-sa. In Sanskrit, there are 13 vowels and 35 consonants. The vowels are a, I, u, u, r, l, e, I, o, ow. And the consonants are k, ka, g, ga, etc. Amongst the consonants, the first 25 letters are called sparshas. There are also 4 antastas. Of the ushmas, there are 3 s's called talavya, murdhanya, and dantya. The musical notes are sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, and ni. All these sound vibrations are originally called Shabda Brahma, or spiritual sound. It is said, therefore, that Brahma was created in the Mahā-kalpa as the incarnation of spiritual sound. I'm reading that again. I don't care what anybody says. It is said, therefore, that Brahma was created in the Mahā-kalpa as the incarnation of spiritual sound. Can you mark that? That place, thanks. The Vedas are spiritual sound, and therefore there is no need of material interpretation for the sound vibration of the Vedic hymns, of the Vedic literatures. The Vedas should be vibrated as they are, although they are symbolically represented with letters which are known to us materially. In the ultimate issue, there is nothing material because everything has its origin in the spiritual world. The material manifestation is therefore called illusion in the proper sense of the term. For those who are realized souls, there is nothing but spirit. Brahma is the personal representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the source of transcendental sound, and is therefore above the conception of manifested and unmanifested. Brahma is the complete form of the Absolute Truth and is invested with multifarious energies. Purport: the post of Brahma is the highest responsible post within the universe, and it is offered to the most perfect personality of the universe. Sometimes the Supreme Personality of Godhead has to become Brahma when there is no suitable living being to occupy the post. In the material world, Brahma is the complete representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and transcendental sound, pranava, comes from him. He is therefore invested with multifarious energies from which all the demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna are manifested. His transcendental value is not to be minimized, even though he exhibited a tendency to enjoy his own daughter. There is a purpose for the exhibition of such a tendency by Brahma, and he is not to be condemned like an ordinary living entity. 49. Thereafter Brahma accepted another body in which sex life was not forbidden, and thus he engaged himself in the matter of further creation. In his former body, which was transcendental, affection for sex life was forbidden, and Brahma therefore had to accept another body to allow himself to be connected with sex. He thus engaged himself in the matter of creation. His former body transformed into fog, as previously described. O son of the Kurus, When Brahmā saw that in spite of the presence of sages of great potency, there was no sufficient increase in population, he seriously began to consider how the population could be increased. Brahmā thought to himself, alas, it is wonderful that in spite of my being scattered all over, there is still insufficient population throughout the universe. There is no other cause for this misfortune but destiny. While he was thus absorbed in contemplating and was observing the supernatural power, two other forms were generated from his body. They are celebrated as the body of Brahmā. Purport: two bodies came out from the body of Brahmā. One had a mustache and the other had swollen breasts. No one can explain the source of their manifestation, and therefore until today they are known as Kayam, or the body of Brahmā, with no indication of their relationship as his son or daughter. The two newly separated bodies united together in a sexual relationship. Out of them, the one who had the male form became known as the Manu, named Swayambhuva, and the woman became known as Shatarupa, the queen of the great soul Manu. Thereafter, by sex indulgence, they gradually increased generations of population, one after another. The son of Bharat, in due course of time, O son of Bharat, in due course of time, he, Manu, begot in Shatarupa 5 children, 2 sons, Priyavrata and Uttanapada, and 3 daughters, Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti. The father, Manu, handed over his first daughter, Akuti, to the sage Ruchi, the middle daughter, Devahuti, to the sage Kardama, and the youngest, Prasuti, to Daksha. From them, all the world filled with population. The history of the creation of the population of the universe is given herewith. Brahma is the original living creature in the universe, from whom were generated the Manu Swayambhuva and his wife Shatarupa. From Manu, 2 sons and 3 daughters were born, and from them all the population in different planets has sprung up until now. Therefore, Brahma is known as the grandfather of everyone, and the personality of Godhead, being the father of Brahma, is known as the great-grandfather of all living beings. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 11.39 as follows. Vayuryamognir vanuna sashanka prajapatis tam pratipatamahascha namo namaste stu sahasrakritva punaschabuyo pinamo namaste. You are the Lord of air, the supreme justice Yama, the fire and the Lord of rains. You are the moon, and you are the great grandfather. Therefore I offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 12th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Creation of the Kumāras and Others. Bravo. Bravissimo. Sadhu, sadhu. Chapter 13, the appearance of Lord Varaha. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O king, after hearing all these most virtuous topics from the sage Maitreya, Vidura inquired further on the topics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which he adored to hear. Now we'll take some reflections or questions. Yes, Prabhu. What's so funny?
Haribol. I don't remember which text it was, but I was wondering if you give us in the context of our modern lives what it means that grihastas and vanaprasthas practice penance.
No sex. Unless it's dharmic. And then vanaprastha means no sex ever, just like a sannyasi. It's the main thing. If you want to do extra stuff, that's okay too, but that's the main thing. Not being entangled in a lot of stuff, winding down, divesting. You invest in Grihastha life and you divest in Grihastha life. You can get a investment counselor and you can get a divestment counselor. I suggest Jayadvaita Maharaj. Anybody else? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. This is a reflection on the way in which this is a reflection on the way in which everything is structured, and there is a method to the world. There is a system in place. Oftentimes, people think everything's chaotic, and there is no person in control. There's no process really in this world. And in the beginning of my life, in my childhood, I used to think, why is the world this way? And how is everything running? How is the world structured? The animals, birds, insects, the clouds, the mountains. And hearing about the Creator and how Krishna has made all the ingredients available, and now he has made a process available, it makes sense that there is a controller in place. So seeing nature and the emanations from nature as a indication of that ultimate controller is the reflection I have.
Yeah, nice point. Yes, Mukharvin.
Maharaj, in the same, I think in the 36th verse, when Vidura is telling that, Vidura said, "O great sage, whose only wealth is penance." So he's telling Maitreya that his only wealth is penance. And I was just thinking that many times you mentioned in your class that, especially in the community, that love and trust is our real wealth. So I was just thinking that that is also a form of penance, that to have that love and trust amongst the devotees, and for that also, especially in this Kali Yuga, is the biggest penance to have that love and trust amongst the devotee.
It takes a lot of work. A community doesn't just happen by accident, it happens by hard work. It means there has to be, when there are conflict, there has to be a willfulness to come together and work on it together and come to a deeper understanding. And that's what it means. It's not something superficial, and it's also not intellectual. It's very real. And every little hard fought and won war won by overcoming these various misunderstandings is another. I'm trying to think of the right metaphor. Well, I was going to say brick, but that's... Okay, it's another brick in building the community. Okay, yeah. That meant I like the way he said it. Go ahead.
What did you like about the point where it was said Brahma is the incarnation of spiritual sound?
What did I like about that? Brahma's, what did it say?
It said Brahma is the incarnation of spiritual sound.
Because I've been thinking a lot about, I'm writing something right now about japa, and I'm thinking of ways to describe the descent of the transcendental vibration, and it gave me kind of confidence in the idea of how, first of all, everything emanates from sound. It comes very deliberately. How Brahma manifested by sound, all the various aspects of the Vedic teachings, as well as the entities in the world that all came from different mantras. And then how there's an origin from it, and it gets passed down. So I found it useful in thinking about why mantra is different from regular sound vibration, regular in the sense that it's not attempting to glorify the Lord. It's for survival in the material world. Any other points? Outside? If not, we got Samyaprash in the bullpen.
Hare Krishna. Hi. Can you hear me? I just kind of have like a technical question. It's mentioned a lot that like these like sons and daughters of Brahma are like coming from different parts of his body, and I was just like thinking, or I've heard this in like Greek mythology as well. Like I think like the daughter Athena was born from Zeus's head or something like that. And I was just trying to, I've always wondered what exactly does this mean, and how does it work?
Well, one thing it means is that something doesn't come from nothing. Because that's one of the conceptions that people have for lack of any other explanation. And nothing literally means no thing. And it's a logical fallacy. So the very premise upon which people conceive of the world nowadays is based on a flimsy premise. And then, as far as manifestation goes, Prabhupada already mentioned it earlier where he said everything comes from subtle to gross. Add that to the conception that everything comes from personality. Nothing comes from an amorphous source or from nothing, but it comes from intention, and intention means person. So there are different energies. Brahma's empowered with those energies and the means by which to manifest them, just like an engineer. An engineer uses code, for instance, to create wonderful results. And, right? You write something. It's very subtle. It's just abstracted thought. You take thoughts about how to execute something, and then you write it down, and then you're able to employ it so that it creates something. Like you use code. What do you use code for? You use it to create a picture, right? If you write the right code, then it'll manifest in the form of a... Engineers, help me out here. What it'll look like? An app, an application. Many manifestations come from behind it all is a thought process coming from a person. And Prabhupada keeps bringing us back to this point, not only in this section of the Bhagavatam, but elsewhere, and so does Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Everything comes from a person, and it's very deliberate. And then the Parasya Sakti Vivadaiva Shrute, there's multifarious energies, and they come from a personal source. So Brahma is just empowered to use those energies that he has, and then from the level of subtlety, they grossify and they come into various forms in the material world. That's where they all come from.
I think there's a question online as well. Just wanted to.
There's a question online.
It says, education is emphasized for the student life. Does it not remain the focus through all the ashramas?
Yeah, but just look how young people, you throw them in a kindergarten, now it's preschool, and then they stay absorbed. Can you remember back to, it was 24/7, because Prabhupada said it's the age of learning. And yes, we should go on learning, lifelong learning. We're big fans of it. But especially at that time, it's a facility, special facility, human brain. Plus, parents have to get rid of their kids some way, keep them engaged. They got to go off to school and learn stuff so they can be productive.
Maharaj, actually there is an extension to that question. So I'll read the full thing again. Education is emphasized for the student life. Does it not remain the focus through all the ashramas? In the sense of how Srila Prabhupada emphasized about reading his books for everyone.
Yeah, everyone should read his books. And every ashram has some lesson. That's why I stopped and mentioned that. There are varnas, ashramas, lessons to learn in each one of them. For instance, in the brahmachari ashram, you learn that you're happy with just being in service. You don't need anything else. Use a little bowl. See the brahmacharis here, they used to have one little tiny bowl. And you throw a little ghee in it, have a chapati, and then they just put it in a corner somewhere, and it's like, you need space to do my service. That's all you need, and then you're happy. You don't want anything else. No burdens of having to own something. And then in Grihastha life, you learn kind of an opposite lesson, how to own things and use them all in Krishna's service. And you see that it becomes the same thing. They're a burden until you say, it's all for Krishna. And then Vanaprastha life gives you a chance to revisit your brahmachari austerity, which is still there as a samskar, and remember that now I'm getting ready to leave the body, so I'll get all my affairs in order, I'll get my consciousness straight. Anything that's stuck to me, I'm going to get rid of that and be totally focused. And then Prabhupada talked about the sannyasi being a preacher who has no other business but passing on the lessons of life learned through the different ashrams. It's very helpful too. I remember that professor who was talking about, he was a professor, passed away. I forget his name right now, but he was one of the ones on that video against Ritvikism. And he was talking about how he knew Prabhupada. Hopkins? He knew Prabhupada, and he had studied his books really carefully. And he was saying, no, there's a different one, I forget. And he said that he had lived his life. He had been through all these life experiences, and then he was just talking about how important that was, how mature Prabhupada was. He had everything to offer, not just from his studies and from his learning from his spiritual master, but everything he had been through in life, including having a family, leaving a family, getting gored by a cow on the roadway, losing his business. That was a big deal. He had a huge business. Everyone said, you're going to be as rich as Birla. And then the whole thing crumbled. Prabhupada said, and then Krishna dismantled everything. And the devotees kind of chuckled like, yeah, what's it to you? And Prabhupada said, no, you become very morose when Krishna takes everything away. And somebody who's been through all these ashramas then has this wholesome and holistic way of expressing Krishna consciousness, because he or she's lived his or her life and is able to present an integrated view of Krishna consciousness and how to apply it. It's like Sanatana Goswami here in Vrindavan. Muni Baba, they call him, because he kept a shaved head. He was dear to everybody in Vrindavan because it wasn't just that he sat and chanted japa all day or shlokas. He used to do parikrama every day, but the reason he was beloved was for the fact that he was a saint, but also because he was available to all the people. And wherever he went, people would bring problems to him as the ultimate arbiter of the problem, like a household couple. My wife says Kitri, I say Japati. He said, what should we do? And whenever decision he made, that was it. They just, everyone bring it to him and present it. And he had been in government. He had been in household life. He walked away from it all. He had been with Lord Chaitanya. He had been around. So he had all that to offer people, and he had that sense of, he knew what life was in the world. So it wasn't that he would shun people and say, no, I don't want to hear about these things. He embraced it, and he knew how to give good advice. So that's what happens when somebody goes through the varnashrama system and is able to assimilate all the lessons. They become really valuable in human society. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Radha Govinda, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, 18 Thakur. If you so desire, please give us the quality of sama, of being equal to the dualities of life, because of our being preoccupied with service at your lotus feet and imbibing your instructions in the Bhagavad Gita and applying them to our own lives. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. No. You got to stop right at the end. It's a complete cutoff and no variation of tones. Stay on the same tone. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Vanchakalptarishcha kripasindhabevacha patitanam pavanivyo vaishnavevyo namo namaha natakuri vaishnavini ki jai. Lunch is in half an hour.